Welcome, everybody. It's Friday, June 9th. John Arvosis here in Washington, D.C. with today's Ukraine update. As always, let me get rolling first here on my TikTok because it takes a couple minutes for folks to arrive on TikTok and YouTube and Twitch and everywhere else. So we're going to adjust my lighting a little. There we go. But we're going to wait about 2 minutes or so for folks to file in, and then we will officially start the show. But introduce yourselves, if you would, for starters. And we'll go from there. Burp. Got my notes. Very ready. Anyway, how are things going for everybody? Happy Friday for those who celebrate. There's the TikTokers. Hopefully TikTok. Thanks. Hey, Greg. Hey, Susan. Let's see. Hopefully TikTok sound is being good today. You never know with TikTok. Hey, Ron Schneider. Anyway, yeah, see where you guys are all from. Always fun to see everybody. Going fine here. Thank you for the gift there already. Who is that? Steven. Thanks, Steven. I have to remember to give TikTok that feedback. Hey, Radoslav. I've got to remember to give them that feedback about making it so difficult. Thank you, Just Scroll, for the gift there. About how hard it is to see when people give gifts on TikTok now. But anyway, we will get back to that. Anyway, how are folks doing? I've decently busy day. Oh, thank you again. Oh, lots of little gifts here. Wait, that was Paigey and then TBI Chris. Thank you, guys. Busy day. The haze is much better today. Actually, it was much better in general today. So that was good. It looks like, let's see, a little bit over the weekend too. But the problem is, fires aren't necessarily stopping. So we're going to get more fires. Oh, hey, Yevgeny in Kyiv. How are you? 863. Thanks for that. I had to squint. I hate Nate or Tom. It's 863. I have to always look. It's hard to read some of these names. Was that Just Scroll, maybe? I've got a funny feeling that was Just Scroll was your name. It is Just Scrolling. That's what I thought. Happy Beach. All right, guys, let me do my intro and we'll get rolling here. So welcome, everybody. I am John Arvosis. This is the Arvosis Report. It's my nightly show, 6 o'clock Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern time, that is. And we talk about the latest news from Ukraine. The way the show works. I didn't put up my new topic list. I'm evil. I have a new topic list. I just didn't put it up. Thank you, Valerie, maybe? Emlo. I'm trying to look at the names here. There we go. Nope. Yeah, that's the new one. I already had uploaded it. I just hadn't put it up. Any case, sorry, I'm going to do a quick look here. Make sure I didn't miss anybody. Actually, Milo. I did get Milo, I think. Or Milo, I'm going to say. Any case, so yeah, the way the show works is I will present the news first, and then second half of the show, take your guys' questions. Always happy to take super chat questions at any time because the super chat people pay for their questions. So it's a way of supporting my work, which I very much appreciate. So if you do a super chat question, I will get to it as the next question. Thank you, 863 Tom there for the marvelous confetti. And thank you, LWD. I will also try to do a shout out whenever I see the gifts flying across the screen on TikTok. Usually I see most of them. Some of them sneak by, so I apologize for that. But I very much appreciate the gifts on TikTok and YouTube because, as I always tell you guys, I do this for free. Have been doing it full time since the war broke out. This is my job covering Ukraine, and the only payment I get is from you guys. No rich people. Well, maybe some of you are rich, but it's not like I've got a philanthropist out there paying my salary. So you guys do it. So I very much appreciate it. Other quick thing. Thank you, Tracy. We're doing our coffee talk tomorrow morning. So tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern time, that's New York City time, all the paid TikTok subscribers and all the paid Discord subscribers, that would be Discord, Patreon, Ko-fi, all of you guys, the Ko-fi recurring, I should say, the recurring Ko-fi folks can find me live. We're going to have it just for the paid subscribers tomorrow morning. I will be on TikTok at 11 a.m. and I will be on Discord in the left-hand column top. You'll see the little thing that says $5 and up chat, something like that. Join us. Vlad will most likely be joining us. My friend Vlad in Ukraine is always beamed in. So this week, obviously, we'll talk about the flood and what he's been seeing. And we're now raising some money for pets as well. So I'm going to pitch you a little bit on that later, but if you want to, you can just go to my profile now and click the link. We are now going to be raising money as well, or we are raising money as well for, thank you for the June gift there, Ellie. And Purnell, we are raising money for animal rescue in Ukraine for the flood rescue. Basically, there are a ton of pets who were understandably abandoned. I mean, what could these people do? Thank you, Ellie. And they're trapped in these homes. They're trapped in the waters, and there are about 50 volunteers traveling around. Vlad's identified at least 3 different groups of people he knows well, knows and trusts that we're raising money for. So if you want to help these guys save the animals, we're specifically giving them money for medicine, tranquilizers, and food for the animals. So if you want to help out, go to my profile on TikTok, click the link. Very top thing will be Vlad's PayPal information. Go to your PayPal and use his address. For you guys here, Aravosis.com will bring up Vlad's info, or I will put it right there for you. All right. Let me get rolling. The other thing is week in review. I'll also do my week in review tomorrow, 1:00 Eastern time US on Twitch. It's my @Aravosis account, not this account, but the other one, @Aravosis, 1:00 Eastern time on Twitch, New York City time, and we'll be doing the week in review. Susan, you are a doll. Thank you. All right, let me get rolling here. So Moscow and Kyiv. So a lot of heavy fighting still going on today, obviously, in the counteroffensive. Moscow and Kyiv, both the Russians and the Ukrainians both say that there was heavy fighting. I will tell you right now, and it's already becoming obvious, it is very difficult to know what's actually happening in the counteroffensive. Now, that is on purpose to some degree, because it's not like the Ukrainians want to be giving a blow-by-blow to the Russians, right? So, I get that. But just be aware that it's not always obvious kind of what information we're going to find out. Now, one thing in particular that was kind of interesting, the Russians, actually, I'm jumping ahead in the stories, but it made me laugh, so I have to tell you. The Russians all week have been talking about 8 Ukrainian Leopard 2 tanks that they destroyed. Everybody, and remember they put video out and everybody was freaking out and everything. Well, the Associated Press grabbed the Russians' video because the Russians put it out there to prove they blew up 8 Leopard tanks, the new tanks that they got from Germany and everything, right? So the Associated Press has some experts look at the tape, and they identified what the Russians blew up. The Russians blew up 2 farm combines and a tractor. That's what they blew up. Now, it is true. I mean, Rob Wall's saying over there on YouTube, it is true that Ukraine also lost some tanks and I think some Bradley fighting vehicles as well. That is normal. Ukraine is not going to get through this war not losing equipment. That's going to happen. But pretty much all the experts weighed in today and said, it means nothing really at this point that Ukraine lost some equipment. Now, putting aside the farm tractors, which was very funny, but it doesn't really mean anything that they've lost some equipment because they're going to lose equipment. One positive, actually, some of the experts I was following online were saying that the pictures that were apparently real of some of the tanks and some of the Bradley fighting vehicles, I think in Zaporizhia, showed that the vehicles were damaged apparently in mines that they ran into. Basically, I guess they didn't sufficiently blow up the Russian mines before traversing, but because the German tanks are so good and the American vehicles are so good, the vehicles were damaged but not destroyed, so the Ukrainian crews very likely survived, which is good news, obviously just from a humanitarian perspective, but also from a military perspective, it's also good news because it means they can go and fight again. There's 3, from what we know, there are about 3 main focal points right now for the counteroffensive for Ukraine. I will list them and I'll show you on the map. One of them is Orikhiv. I'm gonna guess by the way the Ukrainians spell it that it's Orikhiv. I never know where the Ukrainians put the stress on these words. It's a town that is about 30% of the way from Zaporizhia to Berdyansk. So, more or less, I'll try to get my little pen or something. Screw the pen. Toothpick. Toothpick works. Even better. So, it's around here. So, that's one of the main areas that the Ukrainians are attacking. Number 2 is Velika Novosilka near Vuhledar, which is about 40% of the way between Donetsk and Zapo. So Donetsk, Zapo, 40%, I was saying, is around here. Maybe around here is the second area. And the third you're well familiar with is Zaporizhia. Thank you, Richard, for those. And Fanutis is Zaporizhia, which is up around here. I'm not Zaporizhia, I'm sorry, is Bakhmut. Bakhmut, which is that area that the Russians were fighting for 11 months that I love to talk about because the Russians basically killed a lot of their men, blew up a lot of their equipment, and injured a lot more men. 100,000 casualties, which means injured and death, NATO estimates as a minimum, that Russia lost taking this town. These are the 3 areas, as I said, here, what did I say, around here, and then around here. Oops, I'm like, I'm making a mark on my t-shirt here. let's start with the first one. So the first one, I've just got a little bit on each just to know kind of what's going on. Orikhiv, Zaporizhia province. So you've got the Zaporizhia province. Sorry, I keep meaning to restretch this and I always forget to do it. Zaporizhia, which is here. We always talk about Zaporizhia because it's particularly important. Thank you, Ellie. Because one of Ukraine's main goals, well, actually, its main goal at this part of the campaign is going to be to cut Russians' troops in half. Okay. Russia is occupying all of this, and Ukraine wants to cut it in half so that basically they can't get the supplies back and forth, the communications, and then it makes it easier for Ukraine to then attack here and attack here, right? So one of the things that Ukraine's doing, this is probably the most difficult attack they're doing of the three. Thank you, Tom, for that. Is this attack at Orikhiv, which, like I said, is maybe, what did I say? Maybe around here. The problem with this attack, this is the attack where the Ukrainians are having a lot of problems, is that the Russians know that this is kind of the big prize, the big initial prize, I would say, for the Ukrainians. The big final prize is getting back Crimea. But the big initial prize is coming down here and basically capturing Melitopol, maybe getting Berdyansk, and again, maybe getting Marupol, but certainly coming down here and cutting this across. So this is where the Russians have put the majority of, I wouldn't say the majority, but where they put most of their defenses. You know, it depends who you talk to. I mean, some of the experts I'm reading are saying, I think they're trying to be nice about it, like some of the guys on Sky News who are very good, some of the English defense experts, saying, you know, it was an interesting choice of the Ukrainians because it is challenging, you know, with high risk and high reward, but basically saying that one of the things the Ukrainians are going after is really hard. So here's the thing. Okay, as far as I want a little more that I read in a different article about it. For example, the defenses go not across. We know there's a long defenses, but in terms of deep, right? Like how far down the defenses go down, because the defenses cut all the way across the Russian front. The defenses go deep by 6 miles or 10 kilometers. So there's 6 miles or 10 kilometers of defensive, lots of different things, trenches, those dragon teeth, those things sticking out of the ground, like all sorts of stuff that the Ukrainians have to get through in order to do this. It's not easy. Now, it kind of makes me wonder, though, because the Ukrainians aren't stupid. It's not like Zelensky's an idiot. And he said, hey, and he and his general said, hey, let's go after the hardest thing, right? I mean, it kind of makes me wonder if this isn't a fake out. I mean, who knows? I mean, you know, but I guess my point again, well, first of all, my point in general is we don't know. None of us know, right? Thank you. Who is that real quick? Thank you, Nico. So that we shouldn't get sort of despondent when we see this stuff because we don't know. But it does kind of make me wonder if the Ukrainians aren't playing a little bit of a game with them. Now, the other two, as I said, one of them is Bakhmut. Bakhmut is kind of fascinating because Bakhmut, which is all the way over here, as I said, that's the town the Russians were fighting for like 11 months. Thank you, Melissa. And eventually did succeed to capture most of it a couple of weeks ago. The Ukrainians clearly are interested in getting it back. The Ukrainians are north and south of the city. They're still fighting. They've definitely gone on the offensive in the last few days against the Russians there. They're, I think today, the claim from the Ukrainians was they advanced something like 1,200 feet or something like that. Now, 1,200 feet isn't that much. It's, you know, what, a little under a fourth of a mile. Maybe, well, between a fourth and a fifth of a mile. Thank you, Mustard, for that. Which would be, it's not even half a kilometer. Okay. But they advanced. I mean, let's face it, the Russians were advancing even a smaller amount. But it's interesting that they're still going after Bakhmut. And the third area is this one near Velika Novosilka, which we said. That one, that's the one that's 40% of the way between Donetsk and Zaporizhia. Beep, beep, beep. That's the one that's around here, maybe around here, okay, where my finger is up here. That one, there have reportedly been like 4 Ukrainian attacks. We don't know. I mean, I don't have a lot to tell you on it. We don't know what's going on. We don't know how they're doing. My suspicion is, as I said, Ukraine is very smart about this. They're very crafty and tricky. And if I were betting money, I would bet that these 3 attacks are not the only thing Ukraine has up its sleeve. That's my point. I mean, honestly, all 3 of these attacks could be fake. I mean, to be honest, right? I mean, we just don't know. In any case, there were more reported Ukrainian drone attacks in Belgorod. Belgorod, is the region up here that right across from Kharkiv. That's the region where the little Russian insurrectionists have been fighting, the Russian soldiers that are opposed to Putin. So there were drone strikes, which mean drones fired by the Ukrainians at the Russians today. There were also drone strikes. This was interesting. The Ukrainians did some drone strikes in Voronezh. Voronezh is way northeast of Kharkiv. I was looking at the map, and more or less, I'm going to go with around here, maybe on the map, like this far into Russia. Sorry, I'll show you this far into Russia. It's quite a distance. And the Ukrainians were doing some drone attacks against them, which is very interesting. Again, I think part of it is trying to freak out the Russians. Thank you, Anne. Very sweet of you there. I appreciate that. Part of it is to freak out the Russians. Part of it was, again, they may be going after some of the Russian supplies. I don't know if there was a factory there or what they were kind of going after. Speaking of Belgrade, so I was talking about Belgrade, and Belgrade's the place where the freedom fighters of the Russians, those Russian troops, invaded and have been fighting. So Belgrade's the province up here. The Freedom of Russia Legion, which is thank you, Tom, and who put the little thing on my head here? Oh, Alex, thank you, Alex. The Freedom of Russia Legion, which is one of the two groups that's fighting up there on behalf of the Russians, said that they are 10 kilometers or 6 miles into Russia, and intend to advance at least 40 kilometers, which is 25 miles, so that what they want to do, this one cracked me up. Thank you, Tom, for the gift there. They want to go in about 25 miles, which I'm going to say, from what I remember with this map, 25 miles might be, it might be around here. They want to create a buffer here. Basically, they said that'll be like sort of free and demilitarized Russia, so that the Russians won't be able to fire, specifically, they said, Grad missiles and tanks at Ukrainian territory. Now, I don't know if they'll be able to pull it off, but God bless these people for trying this. And what's nice is, I mean, they've got plans. I don't know whether these guys can pull it off, but the fact that they've got plans and that they're admitting it, again, it means to me they might be bluffing. They might be trying to freak out Putin, but all the better. Because if they're freaking Putin out, they're going to have to move some troops. The Russians are going to have to move troops up to that region because clearly it's not enough, right? And the more troops they move up there, they're troops that aren't going to be fighting in the rest of the counteroffensive, which is great. I told you about the 8 Russian Leopard tanks that ended up being tractors. That was very funny. Let me pitch you on my Ko-fi account really quick, and then I'm going to tell you about. Then we're going to talk about the flood a little bit. So the Ko-fi account, basically, in order to support my work, I set up an account over at Ko-fi.com. It's actually ko-fi.com. You guys have it at the bottom of the screen over there. You guys can find it in my profile. Click the link. First thing that comes up is the fundraiser we're doing for the animals, for the animal rescue in Ukraine, for the pets that have been trapped in the flood. And the second thing is Ko-fi. Ko-fi is simply a way that you can, donate to support my work, because I do this for free and I'm doing it full time. So you guys are my salary. You help me pay the bill. Well, you don't just help me pay the bills. I pay the bills with your guys' support. So thank you. The second thing Ko-fi does, which is very cool, is like Patreon, it lets you set up monthly donations. Thank you, Jedamam. And the monthly donations are nice from a creator's perspective, because I'm able to know what money's coming in, right? That you're actually able to at least get a sense of what's going on here. Jens, I think you missed a dot on that one, as long as people know. But thank you. I appreciate you trying. But it's nice to sort of know how much money's coming in. Now, one thing we do with Ko-fi, and I'll talk about the Discord auction a little later, but if you become a monthly subscriber to Ko-fi, that you're donating monthly, we can link that to the Discord, and then you're a VIP member on my Discord, which means you can join our weekend show. We do the private weekend show that I told you guys is tomorrow. Thank you, Marcy, at 11 a.m. Eastern time. That's New York City time, 11 a.m., where it's just going to be us private together, the paying subscribers on TikTok, the paying subscribers on Discord, on Ko-fi. All of you will be joining me privately. We'll beam Vlad in, most likely from Ukraine, and have a private talk amongst us about what's going on and just shooting the bull in general. And there's some other stuff too. Oh, and the VIP auction. One of the auctions I do over at the Discord of cool Ukrainian stuff. If you become a monthly subscriber at Ko-fi, you can also access that. All right, I'm going to keep moving on, but check it out. And I do appreciate if you guys would consider subscribing if you can afford it. But it's ko-fi.com youtube.com/Erevosis. Okay. You can find the link in my profile on TikTok. Thank you, Red Watts. You guys can find the link at the bottom of the screen. All right. Annie, are these animal rescues away from the fighting? Okay, so Andy's talking about the fundraisers we're doing. Well, fundraisers, but actually, I'm going to show you guys a video. It's going to get, I can't show it on YouTube. I can show it if I get rid of the sound. I can do that. There are a number of animal rescue organizations working now in Kherson. Kherson's where the flood is, okay? Remember, Russian occupation, beep, 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 all of this, the flood around the river here. So north of the river, south of the river. It's something, I don't know if it's like 30% north of the river, 60% south. It flooded more in the south than the north. South is Russia. Well, it's all Ukraine, of course, but the south is Russian controlled. The north here is Ukrainian controlled. There are a number of groups that are that have sent volunteers down there, animal rescue groups, because people's pets have gotten lost. The pets were either outside. Mind you, this was a flood that hit, right? Some of the pets, people just didn't get their pets. I mean, some of them might have been away, left in the house. Honestly, to some degree too, if the floodwaters are coming and you're trying to save your kids and your wife, you may not be able to find the dog or the cat. You know, I mean, what do you do? I mean, I have a dog. Trust me, I would die, but nonetheless, you can't always find them. Thank you for notice. So these guys are going and they're finding people's pets for them. I will show you the video in a second because Vlad sent me a video from one of the groups. One of the groups is from Kharkiv. That's the group whose video I'm going to show you. Kharkiv is up here, but the group has sent people all the way down to Kherson to help look for animals. One of the other groups that we're supporting is from Mykolaiv here, which is part of Free Ukraine, so to speak. They've also got people here. We've got about 3 different animal rescue groups that we're raising money for tranquilizers, food, and other medicines. And 100% of the money goes to them. This is one of those fundraisers that isn't for me, so to speak. So 100% of the money goes to them. Thank you, Bonnie, speaking of animals. And if you want to help out, you can go to my profile. Actually, you guys can just go to erevosis.com at the bottom of your screen. Anybody can go to erevosis.com, my last name, and it'll bring up all the lists, all my links, and the very top link is the link for the for Vlad, not the link, but it's the description of Vlad's PayPal address, so you can then go to your PayPal and type in. Let me show you the quick video because it was a very nice video. I'm going to kill the sound on it because it's got music and YouTube will get very upset. I'm going to see, well, here, I can turn this, I'm going to turn this sideways, see if we can do, you won't be able to read it, but at least you'll be able to see it. Well, you'll be able to see it. You guys will be able to read it over here a little bit. There we go. So he's in the boat. There's some animal stuck under there. Might be a duck. This guy swam over there to get a cat, to get a rooster. This is him now swimming, I think, to get a cat. And then he's got to swim back with the animal. I can't even imagine swimming through this water. That would freak me out. Oops, you guys there. Yeah, see, so he's getting close there to put the animal inside. They're trying to get a cat out of a roof. He's in the attic in the roof. Look at this. Is that wild? And you can hear, and they've got a nice translation at the bottom, which is nice too, where they're saying sort of what they're doing. There are some of the cats they found. Oops, we've got. Oop. And I think they're talking to the animals and saying, thanks to the support. Now they're thanking everybody, the support of all Ukrainians. There you go. But that's one of the groups. Yep. But it just kills me though when I see that stuff, like the poor animals just sopping wet and totally freaked out. There was a picture. I wish I copied the picture to show you guys. There is a picture of I'm going to do a quick search for this. There's a picture of a dog, Ukraine, hug, leg, Kherson. And they rescued it and it's hugging. This is it. I mean, this dog, and by the way, I know animals. The dog isn't thanking its rescuer with a hug. The dog is hanging on for dear life because it's terrified. Look at this poor dog. And this is what my dog has done this too. When they're really terrified, they grab onto you and they just hold on. But I mean, oh my God, I look at this. I hate seeing, and it's funny. The people thing bothers me. The animal thing bothers me more. I think because they're innocent, it would be like a baby in trouble, It just it kills me when I see stuff like that. I'm like, oh God. In any case, these are the folks we're raising money for, guys. If you can help out, like I said, 100% of the money is going to help these guys directly. We're not taking a dime. You can go to my profile. You'll find Vlad's PayPal information, his PayPal email that he's using, his name, and then go to your PayPal and send it. Thank you, Pirate. Same thing for you guys. Go to erevosis.com if you can. All right. Let me keep going on with the news. Make sure I didn't. Oh, Lilia, hold on. Lilia did have something. Thank you, Lily. Had a super chat question. Did you see the parts of actual Russia are getting flooded from heavy rains? Karma in action. No, I did not see that. That's interesting. I didn't see that at all. What are we? I mean, what's the story on that? Because I'd be curious where in Russia would get flooded. Oh, from heavy rains. I'm sorry. Heavy rains. Okay, I thought you meant flooding because the dam broke, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Actually, just to show you all. So the dam is. Oops. God, somebody's got to remind me to tighten this. Mods, remind me to tighten this map. The dam is down here, more or less along. You can see the river probably here. The dam is pretty much down here. The nuclear plant is up here. So, right, the reservoir is here. The flooding, therefore, is downriver. So it's all here. Russia is all the way over here and then all the way up. So all of this bordering Ukraine is Russia. Then you've got water here. Well, more or less, I forget exactly. I think Russia comes down to here and then it comes around here as well. So that's why I was saying, how is this flooding Russia? But it's rains that are flooding Russia. Exactly. All right. Let me move on. Hang on. Boom, boom. Only a couple more stories. Okay. Senior Biden administration official says the U.S. satellites have detected an explosion at the dam in Kherson, right before the dam burst. Now, very interesting. They haven't released the information, but they, gave it to the New York Times. Interesting because now we've got the New York Times did a story yesterday or the day before about the military experts and seismologists, right? Not seismologists, they're military experts and explosive experts and engineers who looked at the dam and said, this dam most likely blew up because somebody put explosives inside of it. Okay. They said it was not structural damage. Literally somebody put a deliberate explosive in the dam and blew it up. Today, you've got the New York Times saying that American spy satellites picked up an explosion at the time the dam, right before the dam blew up. You've got the Ukrainian intelligence services releasing a telephone call that they say is a Russian soldier talking and discussing the fact that they used a sabotage group, that the Russian military used a sabotage group to blow up the dam. And excuse me, there was some other, I'm forgetting, there was some fourth thing. I don't recall. But yeah, it is the seismic stuff. You're right. And the seismic stuff, that was the fourth thing. I just did Lilia. So I just did Lilia, as I recall. The seismic thing, which was that the seismometers or whatever they're called in Norway or wherever two different places picked it up. They picked up I guess they pick up vibrations in the right, and it was of the form of an explosion. Okay. It was, in other words, what they saw on I'm already forgetting, what's the term? The size, it's not a seismograph. What's it called? I'm forgetting now. It's not a seismometer, but whatever it is, that thing, that it was the shape, but the device, it was the shape or whatever of what is typically an explosion. What they can't do is tell you what kind of an explosion. They also cannot, seismographer. Okay. The seismograph is what I was asking, the actual device. They cannot limit it beyond 20 miles. So it's within 20 miles of this location, but there isn't a lot of explosions. There wasn't until now, a lot of explosions taking place in this area. So it was very interesting that, again, right before the dam blew up, the seismograph noticed a ripple or whatever that was indicative of an explosion. There's a hell of a lot of evidence right now that this was an explosion. We'll take it from there. The few other things, the floodwaters have begun to fall. Now, mind you, They were even saying a couple days ago it was going to take a good 10 days for the floodwaters to fall. So, that's not going anytime soon. And then even once the floodwaters go away, it's going to take a while for the ground to dry out. So, we'll have to see what happens in terms of whether Ukraine can potentially, Ukraine is north of the river. Now, the river itself is going to be wider now, but once the river, first of all, a couple questions actually. I'm not even sure what the answer is to this. I know I had seen some pictures people had put up of before the dam was built. Now, that doesn't tell you what the river is going to look like now, but it might give you a hint. And I don't recall how wide the river would be down here after things calm down, because the question then becomes, once things calm down, once the water goes away and the ground is dry enough, mind you, that's a whole other question. Would the Ukrainians consider crossing the river or not? Again, crossing the river is not is one of the more dangerous options, right? Thank you, Malayathos. Appreciate that. Malayathos just sent I'm pronouncing your name the way I would in Greek. I don't know what it's from, but I'm making you Greek. Just gave a $50 donation to our animal rescue work that we are doing in the area, that we are supporting a number of the animal groups who are rescuing pets who are in danger of drowning in the floods. And again, like I said, you can go to my profile, click the link in my profile on TikTok, and it's the first thing that comes up is Vlad's PayPal info. Just go to your PayPal and use his info. You guys, it's erevosis.com at the bottom of the screen right there is the link of the list of links. You can find Vlad's info there. I've only got a couple more things here. The White House says Iran is providing Moscow with materials to build a drone factory in Russia, east of Moscow. Now, we knew this was being discussed. My suspicion is they're saying this because now it actually is happening if they're providing them with the materials. I read in a different story that they said the factory wouldn't be ready until next year. And finally, some good economic news for Ukraine, because the gross domestic product, in other words, the growth of the economy, is experienced a 2.4% increase in the first 3 months of this year. Thank you, Bonnie. Considering how much damage has been done to Ukraine's economy, the notion that it would grow 2.4%, which in normal times, 2.4% is, it's okay growth. It's nice growth. It's not stellar, but it's nice. That would be nice in normal times. In these times, that sounds awfully good. Anyway, I hope I hope it's a sign of something perhaps getting better for the Ukrainians. Let me do a quick show. I will quickly show you guys my Discord auction stuff, and then we can do questions. Thank you, Bonnie. There wasn't as much news today, really. So on our Discord, which you can access discord.erevosis.com, and it is basically a chat community. You kind of have to go check it out if you've never checked out Discord to understand how it works. But you can access it in my profile on TikTok. Click the link. You'll find Discord, one of the options that comes up. You guys can simply go to, erevosis.com at the bottom of the screen. Thank you, Courtney. And we've got auctions that we've set up of cool stuff that I found in Ukraine. And that was another one. Thank you. Who was that? Paul. Thank you, Paul, for that. Of cool stuff I find in Ukraine, and we auction it off to you guys. And it's a way of making money for myself because, as I said, I do this for free full time, and I'm not rich, so I got to have the money come somewhere. And 50% of the profits I've been channeling back to Ukraine, which now is well over $10,000 at this point. And of money that's been sent back to Ukraine in the last year. We've been doing a lot of humanitarian work, some military. We've also been building a lot of paying for camouflage nets for the military. Thank you, I would be, and Courtney. Camouflage nets for the military, drones, drone extenders, stuff like that, but a lot of humanitarian work as well for people with special needs, for children, etc. Thank you, Jetta. In any case, I wanted to show you just a couple of the stuff we're auctioning off. There's like 9 things, so I'm not going to show you all of them, but a couple of them I may not take it out, but you can see this is a t-shirt, black t-shirt for the Russian warship Go F Yourself stamp. That's the Ukrainian soldier. This is based on the Ukrainian stamp. It's the Ukrainian soldier flipping his finger at the ship, the Moskva, which I love this shirt. It's great. The Moskva is the Russian warship Go F Yourself ship that 6 weeks after the Russians did that, the Ukrainians sank it, which is nice. So that's a cool piece of merch. I've got a cool sweatshirt that all of these are produced by the Ukrainian government. I should say both of these. Cool sweatshirt honoring the Ukrainian Special Forces. You guys can see there. Special Forces. Oops. Now you can see Special Forces. That's kind of fun. A really neat, this one's kind of cool. This one's doing quite well. A Russian military bag from Ukraine. This was given to us, or on loan, if you want to say, thank you, Courtney, from Ukrainian troops. And the Ukrainian troops gave it to us so that we could, thank you that for the, who was that? Courtney was, Tracy, there we go. Thank you, Tracy. The Ukrainian troops gave it to us and said, we could take, basically auction it off like everything else and then send them their portion of the proceeds. So that's what we're doing. Thank you, Nancy. And a couple, I'll show you, okay, what the heck? I'll show you a couple other things really quick. Patron the dog stickers. Thank you, Dak. I love these. These are Patron the dog, who's this bomb-sniffing dog that's very famous in Ukraine. And these are some stickers that the Ukrainian government made for him, or of him. And here, 2 more and then we'll be done. Russian warship, go F yourself, fridge magnet. Very cool. And this one I like a lot, even though I'm not really a drinker, but it's funny. People tend to prefer this design. I would say this is the design everyone loves. The Russian warship, where it's the Ukrainian soldier, it's the stamp. Ukrainians literally did a stamp showing a soldier flipping his middle finger at the boat, which cracks me up. This is the design people like the most. The design I like the most is the tractor pulling the tank. And this is a fridge magnet, but it's also a beer bottle opener. But I love this one because that designed the colors, the sunset colors and everything. It shows a Ukrainian tractor pulling the tank. That's always been my favorite. And in person, you'd have to see it. It's a little brighter and bolder, like a little more sunsetty. But that I think is so cool. This is a picture of the stamp. So this is not the stamp because this is a fridge magnet. Somebody's asking on TikTok. This is literally what the stamp looks like. Actually, I've got the stamps. This is what the stamp looks like. They did a stamp showing a Ukrainian soldier flipping his finger at the boat. And it's the boat that at the first day of the, I might as well, in case people forgot or whatever, the first day of the war, the Russians tried to, or they actually did take, but now they lost it, Snake Island. Snake Island, I want to say it's more or less around here, more or less, Ukrainian island. The Russians wanted to take it. And they told the Ukrainian troops on the radio, they said, Ukrainian troops surrender or we're going to blow you up. And they took a couple seconds and the Ukrainian commander, and we've got the audio, it was all over the world, says Russian war, because Ukrainian blah, blah, this is Russian warship. They could define, this is Russian warship, surrender. And he goes, Ukrainian warship, go F yourself. But he said, of course, he says it the whole thing, right? In Russian or in Ukrainian or Russian, Ukrainian or Russian warship, go F yourself. We thought they all got killed. Some of them, I think, did get killed. Most of them got, the Ukrainians, most of them got taken prisoner. They ended up being released. I think they're all released now. But the Ukrainians told the Russian warship to go F itself. And 6 weeks later, the Ukrainians sank the Russian ship. They developed their own cruise missile called the Neptune cruise missile, and they developed their own missile. They sank the ship. The ship was the prize of the Russian fleet in the south, in this area. It was the flagship. They sank the thing. It was called the Moscow. I mean, you couldn't write this better for Hollywood. Anyway, it was a great story. So the Ukrainians, of course, make a stamp. Somebody does a wonderful painting, and I don't know if the painting was commissioned or if they just saw it and loved it. But somebody does a painting showing a Ukrainian soldier on the shore looking at the Russian ship and giving it the finger. So what does Zelensky do? He takes it and he makes a stamp out of it. So there's literally a stamp of this guy giving the finger to the Russian ship, and the stamp is that painting, the same painting that's on the magnet I showed you. Like I said, I've got it buried in my stuff over there. Maybe later during the Q&A, I can try to find it. They're really cool. They're very popular. They're very cool. Anyway, all right. So let me go and take some questions, and we'll do our thing. Oh, what I was going to say too. At the end of the show, the big news in America today, which most of you probably heard, was Donald Trump got indicted because of the classified document issue, of him taking classified documents. The actual indictment document came out today. It is quite detailed, and even conservative. There's a conservative lawyer who's very, very conservative, but also very Republican. Meaning he's on Fox News all the time, and he will Jonathan Turley. He will defend Republicans to the death. And I was watching him today, a clip of him on Fox News, and he said this. I'll try to pull up the clip later. We can show it during our during the show, during our after show. But he said that this indictment was very well done, that this is real trouble for Trump. Trump had better take this seriously because he's seen a lot of indictments in his time. He said this is bad. I mean, and this is the guy who drives people on the left crazy because he's always kind of making excuses. I will say people on the left think he makes excuses for the people on the right. He said this indictment, he goes, indictments, you get to court and you never know, right? Fair enough. Thank you, Marcy. But what we're going to do is, rather than talk about it here, because I try not to get into the political stuff here, because I like to keep the Ukraine stuff, we're all together, right? Afterwards, after the show, we'll go to my Discord, discord.aravosis.com, and we'll talk about the Trump stuff. Because there, if you don't like it, it's okay. We'll survive. But here I like to kind of keep the politics, because then people are like, we hate Biden and we hate Trump. And I don't think that's good for us as a pro-Ukraine community. You know what I mean? It's good for us just to kind of keep that stuff out of here. At least we can agree on this, the Ukraine stuff. Okay, so go to my Discord afterwards. Alrighty, so Discord, TikTok. Remember, you can submit questions via the Q&A link that's in my profile. I may or may not have said that at the top of the show. You guys can submit them on the screen. Let me go and see. I don't think I told you at the beginning of the show, so I'm getting a little worried. Maybe I don't have questions here. Oh, sorry. Daniel O'Neill have a super chat. Excellent, Daniel. Thank you. And a generous one. Daniel says, I've heard suggestions that there may be as many as 100,000 civilian dead in Mariupol. Oh, I wouldn't be surprised. Have you seen figures this high? Would this not give the liberation of that city added importance, even just to show how bad Russia is? So Mariupol is this city down here, okay, on the water. Again, Russian occupation goes all the way through here, right? This city became very well known at the beginning of the war for a variety of reasons. The Russians were having a hard time taking the whole city, kind of like Bakhmut. The Russians were having a difficult time taking the whole city. There was a core group of Ukrainian military fighters, most of them from the Azov battalion, AZOV in English, and they were fighting at a steel plant. Remember the steel plant? That they were basically inside, and is a huge steel plant, like city blocks and city blocks of this steel plant. And they were fighting the Russians for almost 2 months, and there were 2,000 of these Ukrainian soldiers fighting 14,000 Russians, and the Russians couldn't beat them. Finally, after about 6 to 8 weeks, they were running out of food and water. They were running out of ammunition because they couldn't get resupplied. And Zelensky finally ordered them to stand down and to turn themselves in, because at that point, they would have just been killed. I mean, there was no point to that because they were running out of ammunition too. They couldn't fight anymore. And Zelensky felt, you know what? Why kill yourselves? Also, my suspicion is Zelensky also rightly understood that these guys were heroes, and it wouldn't hurt to have the heroes alive. Although, frankly, when you kill heroes, you get martyrs. Nonetheless, that's Mariupol. The other stories you will know about Mariupol. Mariupol is the city where the Russians bombed the drama theater that had the words children written on the outside in Russian. Remember? So they had a bunch of refugees from the town, because the town was and this town, just a town of like 400,000 people, utterly destroyed. So the civilians, to avoid the bombing, go into the theater, and they put with their pretty much women, children, and elderly men, because most of the other men are fighting, of course. And they put the words children on the outside, so the Russians know there are children inside, and the Russian pilot bombed it anyway. And that's why. And the final thing about Mariupol is the same town. I mean, Mariupol really, a lot of cities have suffered. Mariupol really suffered. Mariupol is the city where the Russians bombed the maternity hospital. Remember the pictures of the woman, the one picture of the woman super pregnant, and she's on a blanket that I think is a blanket of like watermelons or something, because it's a very pretty like kid kind of thing. She ends up having the baby. She and the baby die. Both of them died. and her husband was left. I mean, because she was about to give birth anyway, they killed her and they killed the baby. That's Mariupol. Mariupol, just horrific stories. So that's what Daniel's asking about. As many as 100,000 civilian dead. I certainly heard at the beginning people thought it was awful numbers of dead. So that's possible. So the other thing with Mariupol is the town where the Russians wouldn't let people go. They wouldn't let them leave. If you wanted to leave, and mind you, things are just getting bombed left and right in Mariupol. If you wanted to leave, the only choice the Russians gave you, they said you can go back to Russia. And they're like, why the hell would I want to go to Russia? Like, I'm Ukrainian and you're trying to kill me. They basically were forcing the Ukrainians into Russia because they pretty much wanted to kidnap them or make them human shields. That's Mariupol. So what Daniel's saying is, if you could liberate Mariupol, and hey, Denny's in Kyiv, if you could liberate Mariupol, would that not be significant in terms of the visuals and the stories you would be getting out of Mariupol? That is true. The thing is, what Ukraine has to do, though, they've got to win the war, and the stories are nice. I say nice, meaning, they're helpful. They're certainly very helpful for the international community to stay on board and everything else. But if you're really trying to win the war, I think you've got to go after targets solely based on military impact. In terms of, for example, Melitopol. I mean, Melitopol is where the train tracks cross. The train tracks that take Russian supplies from all the way over here and then into Russia, down here into Crimea. They take Melitopol, and Russia's screwed in terms of Crimea, or screwed in many ways. So Melitopol is the town you want. Mariupol is a town that you want if you want to embarrass Putin. That's what I was reading an analysis on this earlier this week, saying that it would be a prize just to embarrass, because Putin has invested so much into Mariupol. Now, I'm trying to remember this actually. Mariupol, okay, actually, maybe Denis or one of the other Ukrainians can tell me, because I remember earlier this week, I read something that the reason Putin was so hell-bent on taking Mariupol was because, like, back in 2014, when he invaded the first time, somehow Mariupol stood up to him. And I don't remember what they did. I read it earlier this week, but the people in Mariupol, the city, stood up to him, and it really pissed off Putin. It really pissed him off. And that basically Putin had sort of a grudge that this time he was going to beat Mariupol. I wish I could find this. I read so many stories every day. I don't know sort of where I read them from, but that's one of the reasons they were going after there. Hang on a second here. Oh, that's interesting. Otanbat is saying Ukrainian forces in Orikhiv. Now, Orikhiv, I believe we said Orikhiv is down here. I think that's this one. It's not the one that was up here. Yeah, Orikhiv, I think, is down here. That's the real difficult fighting. That's the one where the Ukrainians opted to try to get through the Russian lines in a place where the Russians really have the most defenses they have of anywhere else, basically, right? Sorry, Otanbat was saying that Ukrainian forces in Orikhiv declared a no press zone to, thank you, Kathy, for the llama, a no press zone to Norwegian reporters. What are your thoughts on disseminating on-the-ground updates defying the Ukrainian military's plea for discretion? I was going to say something, and I'm controlling myself because TikTok and YouTube might not like it. Not you guys. I mean, the powers that censor. If the military tells you not to be in an area where the war is taking place and you're there, I don't pretty much care what happens to you. That's my nice way of saying it. The number one thing about wars is, was it World War II? Probably loose lips sink ships. It said, probably, I'm thinking the English probably use the expression as well, but in America, it was actually, I'm going to look at the posters. It was either World War I or World War II, probably World War II. Let me see, loose lips. And I mean, very famous. Yeah, here you go. World War II. There we go. Famous propaganda poster in World War II. Loose lips might sink ships. And loose lips meaning, your lips are loose and you're letting information come out of them. So really big deal in terms of, and Ukraine has been saying forever to their own citizens, stop telegraphing what's happening. They arrested 4 or 5 people who had taken, I think, pictures of the Paul is saying in Britain theirs was careless talk costs. That sounds so British. Thank you, Kathy, for that. Careless talk costs lives. It sounds so proper. Careless talk costs lives. So British. Yeah, loose. Is that more American too? Like loose lips sink ships. It's like a very American kind of thing. That's very funny. What were we saying? Oh yeah. So Ukraine arrested 4 or 5 like bloggers or whatever who I think had taken video of the Patriot missiles intercepting the Russian missiles. The problem is it was showing the Russians where the Patriot missiles were and like other things like that. And they arrested them. I mean, they arrested them. It was really, I wasn't trying to do a British accent per se, but it was a real problem. So yeah, so I am not sympathetic. Thank you for the heart there, Tracy. I'm not sympathetic to the reporters. Yeah, I'm just not sympathetic. I mean, I'm all for a free press, but in a war zone, yeah, so not at all. Anyway, let me see if you guys put up any TikTok questions. Thank you, Louis, for the Friday gift. Q&A. Oh, Discord being difficult. Sorry about that. Thank you, Jetta Mom. Tigger Poo. Oh, Tigger Poo. Thank you, Kathy, for the happy Friday. Tigger Poo says he's trying to get into Discord, and it says action cannot be completed. Okay. Discord, generally speaking, I will say what I have been taught about Discord from all of my Discord friends is you want to download the app. So either the Discord app, hey Marion, either the Discord app on your computer or your iPad or your iPhone, but you want the app for Discord, and that should make it much easier. And then create an account. So I download the app, create an account. Again, it's free and easy. Then go and click my link in my profile. Honestly, the link, who's the guitar? Thank you, Canalsi. The link is discord.aravosis.com. But you can find it on my Linktree page. So on TikTok, click the link in my page and then I'm in my profile, and it'll come up as one of the options for you guys. Aravosis.com. The Discord will come up as one of the options, or just discord.aravosis.com. And hopefully it will be easier if you try that. And as I said, we've got public auction. We've got 2 sets of auctions. There's public auction. What the heck? I'll show you really quick. We've got 2 just to show you guys Discord so you can kind of see for anybody who's not familiar. Private messages from people. So Discord, here, I'll shut a couple of the, one moment here. I'm going to shut our Jeep. I was just going to shut our mod area, although it doesn't really matter. Well, that's okay. Mod area doesn't matter. So you'd go in and it looks like this basically. Kind of confusing, but what it is a bunch of different topics that you can go and talk. So like I'd scroll all the way down. Well, you scroll down and you'd see auctions and you'll see VIP and public auctions, right? So you scroll down, auctions is the headline, and you see VIP, and then 5 different auctions, or 4 in public and 5 different options. And there's stuff like Russian military bag, go F yourself fridge magnet, special forces sweater, Patron dog stickers, things like that, right? You can also scroll further down. Our public chat area. Show you guys. Public chat is right below where I have messages. It says public chat, Ukraine chat, memes, general chat, debt ceiling, Trump. Actually, I can take out debt ceiling because that issue's done. Ukraine chat, memes. I'll click Ukraine chat, and this is a discussion of all of us posting stuff about Ukraine. What I'm scrolling through are individual comments, links to stories, photos of people writing stuff. I'm trying to like just pull some of these up. Daniel O'Neill posted something about, actually Ben, for example, Ben posted the story about, this is how I found out about it. Ben posted the story about the Russians blowing up a tractor and claiming it was a Leopard tank. You can see here, Ben posted that. So like you can post links to stories, all sorts of stuff. And what I like about it is on Ukraine, for example, we talk all day about Ukraine, and it's really kind of fun because there's a good core group, or it changes. I mean, I'd say like 30% of my audience on TikTok and everywhere, 30% is foreign, and foreign for me, 70% is American. So we get we get a good amount of Canadians, good amount of Australians, good amount of Brits, and then Europeans. So 30% is not America. And a lot of that, I'd say maybe even 25% could be Europe. So we're kind of on different time zones. So it's anyway, but it's nice. And usually we're discussing what's going on. And at the same time, Daniel, was your post not safe for work? I don't know. I have no idea. Trump's been the big topic today. Yeah, we've been talking about Trump a lot, but it's nice too because you can sort of share stories and see the latest, but also like on Ukraine, it's nice because some of the guys, like there's Sam, who's a military, or I think former US military guy, but he's in Ukraine right now. So we've been talking to him about some of the stuff going on. Some people like Callum and Colonel Mustard and Marine Death is his name, are there. And they're either existing or former military, and we're asking them about specific things. Anyway, it's very helpful. It's a nice sort of, it's just very informative. Anyway, so I like it. But yeah, so we've got the auctions on the left. The public auction is the one that everybody can access. The VIP auction is only for those people who pay the monthly subscription, as my way of giving you some kind of thanks for doing that. I've set up both. So, all right. Let me go. I mean, not go. I mean, let me do a few more. I had yogurt before the show, so my head is itching because I get an itchy reaction to yogurt or milk, and it's really annoying. I probably have a little bit of a milk allergy. It's annoying. Sorry, I'm in my Discord looking at stuff. But yeah, try to download the Discord app. That might be easier. When do you think the Ukrainian offensive will start? Well, I mean, the thing is, it already started. What we don't know is, certainly this week in particular, the Ukrainians are attacking a number of different places now, the Russians. Some of this is considered probing, military term, which translates well in normal language too, where basically they're testing the Russians. So they're testing them to see how well are they, defending. Like if we attack this area, are they caving? Are they running? Are they fighting back? And what they do is, in principle, if one of these areas the Russians were to do just horribly and fall apart, the Ukrainians might go and attack and send even more men and women into that area, right? So that basically you're testing all these different areas. And if one area, the Russians fall apart, that may be the area where you come through and try to breach the Russian defenses, right? So they're not at the stage yet, we think, where they're sending, the biggest massive troops in some massive battle. That's not happening yet. They're still testing. And we don't know how long that's going to be because, maybe Biden knows, but the rest of us don't. And to some degree, I think it's going to depend on it'll depend on the circumstances on the ground because they're trying to see where the Russians are weak. But having said that, A, you want to see where the Russians are weak, but B, you still want to invade areas that are strategically good for you, that from that area, then you can use it as a starting point to go after another area. So all of that's going to come into this. The flood will probably make some difference, maybe a lot, maybe not a lot. Some of the pundits don't think the flood's making any difference, really, because the thought for some of the defense experts think, the flood was over here. It flooded the river. Crossing the river was already very dangerous for Ukraine because they said, crossing the river, they're in the open. They're not camouflaged. They're not, defended. They're defenseless crossing a river, and it opens it up to the Russians just attacking, artillery, bombing the hell out of them, right? So some of the defense guys think the Ukrainians probably weren't going to cross the river anyway. So the idea that it's flooded may not have made a difference in Ukraine's planning. Now, I will say, thank you, Paigey, for that. I think the flooding did cause a big problem for Ukraine in terms of it's a distraction. Now, I'm talking in military terms. I'm not talking humanitarian. It's obviously bigger than a distraction in humanitarian terms. But in military terms, you want to be focusing on attacking the Russians. You don't want to have to be worrying about 200,000 poor civilians who are drowning or running out of water or whatever, right? I mean, there were like 40,000 they were worrying about drowning. But who's doing the search and rescue? A lot of military. Who's leading the search? Who's coordinating the search and rescue? Thank you, George, for that gift. Zelensky, right? So Zelensky is now dealing with the war, but he's also dealing with a huge humanitarian disaster in his own country. Thank you, Martin. That divides his attention and it makes it harder for him to do his job. So that's in that way, the flooding is hurting Ukraine's war effort because it's taking resources from military, Zelensky's own time, that would be better spent, better spent focusing on the war. But I say better is not the word. It's the opportunity cost question in economics, right? That there's a cost to having to save people here because those are now soldiers and resources that aren't being spent killing Russians or attacking Russians or blowing up Russian machinery. So if the Russians blew it up, which it looks like they did successfully hurt Ukraine by the opportunity cost, at least. Robert F. Kennedy is clinically insane. Jeffrey's asking what I think about Robert F. Kennedy on Ukraine. I think the guy's a nut. I mean, but I don't think he's a nut. I think he's got psychological damage. I think the guy's literally Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I think he's crazy. Yeah. So yeah, he's bad on Ukraine. He's anti-vaccine. He's a nut job. I mean, he's a nut job. Or he's a nut bar. Head says he's a nut bar. Is that a British expression, or do we use that here? I like it though. Nut bar. Yeah, he's I think, unfortunately, on Ukraine, he's pro Russia, this kind of crazy stuff. I think he's cuckoo. Unfortunately, it's really sad. Yeah. I mean, because, the thing is, some people go nuts as they get older. I think it's unfortunate, but you see people. I mean, Rudy Giuliani went nuts. Now, I will say this: New Yorkers say they didn't like Rudy before, but a lot of us thought Rudy Giuliani was pretty cool. Back in 2000, mayor of New York. I know New Yorkers hated him, but for the rest of the country, we thought Rudy was kind of cool for a Republican. Don't mean to knock Republicans. And he kind of went nutsy cuckoo in terms of like the Trump stuff and everything else. Anyway, there's a lot of people who seem to who seem to, in politics, they hit like 70 or 80 and something happens and you're like, what the hell happened to them? General what's his face, the general who was Trump's national security advisor for 10 days, Michael Clark. I'm already forgetting his name now. Michael, is it Clark? Help me out here. He was the head of defense intelligence at the Pentagon. He was reportedly really good. Michael Flynn. Thank you, Michael Flynn. He was reportedly really good. Talk about weird stuff. And now he's out. He's a nut job. He's another nut. He's not like conservative. I'm not saying he's like, he's crazy because he's conservative. He's crazy. Which is another one though. But military people say, you've got to understand, 10 years ago or 14 years ago, he was really good. So I think, unfortunately, it could be dementia, it could be whatever, but something happens to some people. It's kind of scary too, because you worry about all of us as we get older, but some people get older and they're not necessarily 80 or 90. They're like 70. And somehow their personality, everything about them changes and they become so radical. And you're like, what happened to you? Anyway, what do you do? Not our topic. Thank you Kathy for the happy Friday. Do I think Ukraine would win if they never got NATO help? No. I think Ukraine would put up one hell of a guerrilla war. If they weren't getting Western aid, Russia would be facing Afghanistan right now. Russia would be controlling Ukraine, but they would have assassinations and what they've got going on in like Zaporizhia and Marupal, lots of assassinations going on around here. The Ukrainians are running this like, oh my God. The Ukrainian sort of Maquis, or the, what do you call them? That's what the word Maquis, which is French and Star Trek, both, is coming into my head. The freedom fighters, the resistance, right? They're amazing, working with Ukrainian intelligence, blowing up collaborators behind enemy lines who are basically Ukrainians who are working with the Russians. The Russians would be facing that all over Ukraine. And by the way, if Russia had taken it, it would have been like the Mossad. Had Russia taken all of Ukraine, I think you would have seen terrorist attacks across Russia as well. If it were my country, I'd do it. If you took my country, forget it. Right? Literally a genocide trying to wipe out my country. Forget it. So yes, Ukraine, I think, would be in trouble in terms of the war if they didn't have NATO's help. And that means not just America, but all of us, right? but Russia would be in trouble. Michael Clark's the Sky News guy. You're right. That's why Michael Clark was popping into my head. Thank you, Anth. I was wondering what was going on in my head. But boy, Russia would have been in trouble because, yeah, Russia might have conquered Ukraine, but Ukraine would just destroy them. I mean, piece by piece, it would be Afghanistan for everybody, us and the Russians. Are there nukes in Belarus? Who knows? I mean, Putin keeps making it sound like he's moving nuclear weapons to Belarus. The Russians lie. I always tell you guys, the Russians lie about everything, so that I wouldn't trust anything literally, I'd have to see a nuclear weapon in Belarus, and I'd have to see a mushroom cloud before I believed there was a Russian nuclear weapon in Belarus. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. Ryan, there really isn't anything new with the counterattacks. I was telling folks earlier, I sort of talked through like the three main areas where the current Ukrainian attacks seem to be taking place, but the Ukrainians are doing a very good job of keeping sort of informational security, keeping operational security, I should say, the security of the secrecy surrounding their attacks. They're doing a very good job of keeping it, and they don't want people to know. A lot of the information coming out this week was from the Russians, and the Russians lie, so that it wasn't, talking about, I was telling you earlier in the show, the Russians were claiming they blew up 8 Leopard tanks. They destroyed 8 Leopard tanks, the good German tanks the Ukraine got, and they released a video showing several of the tanks blowing up. And the Associated Press took the video, gave it to some experts, and the experts looked at the tape and said, that's 2 farm combines, like the farm equipment that I guess, I don't know whether it picks the wheat or whatever, 2 farm combines and a tractor is what that video of what the Russians are blowing up. So they blew up a bunch of farm equipment. Now, they did blow up there were reports, and I saw pictures of what people said. That a couple of Ukrainian Leopards and some American Bradley fighting vehicles, we believe, ran into landmines, and were damaged. From what the experts I was reading, they said that the damage looked to the point where basically it disabled the vehicle, but it didn't kill the crew. That the crew was able to get out, they think. A sprayer and a harvester. I was going to say a combine. That's what I think of. I think of like some big equipment used for, sowing the field or getting the harvest or whatever, right? Yeah. But yeah, so it is very difficult to get anything on what's going on. And it makes sense because bottom line is right now, it doesn't necessarily help Ukraine to get information out about what's going on, really. I mean, they know what's going on. They're talking to the Americans and all the European generals, right? So they've got all the generals helping, giving them advice and stuff. That's all they need. They don't really need to tell the rest of us, so they're not telling the rest of us. I mean, I'd love to know, but obviously I don't want to know unless it's safe to let me know, to let me know, that was good. A few too many no's there. I like Velveeta cheese. There we go. Someone's talking about Velveeta cheese on YouTube. Velveeta's awfully good mixed with Velveeta and salsa. Woo! Among other things. Very good. That's the Midwesterner in me. Well, actually, we think Ukraine's getting more. Nick is saying, how much of a difference will the tanks make? I mean, Ukraine is only getting like 50 or 60. No, Ukraine is supposed to be getting a couple hundred tanks. Now, I'm trying to remember. I thought I saw that Ukraine already had like 160 or something, and maybe it was up to 200. I don't know if Callum's here or any of the military guys or gals. Do we know what the sort of unclassified number is of how many tanks we think Ukraine already has? I'm sorry, how many Western tanks they've already received? And when I say Western tanks, I mean, well, I guess that could be because they also received a bunch of Soviet tanks from the Poles and others too. Callum had to leave. Okay. But they already received the 100 from Denmark and Germany. Thank you, Tom, for the heart. Germany gave 100 more. I was going to say, I feel like it's over 200. I feel like it's over 200 that they received. No, so it's a decent number. They spread them around. In addition to the tanks, they also received a large number of American Bradley fighting vehicles. They're not tanks, but they're apparently very good. General Hertling is a big fan of them. It was an American general, retired, but he at one point, I remember watching him on CNN talking about this. Thank you, Patricia. And he was talking about the fact that nice. Okay, I was funny. I'm looking. I got a notice. I've never got one of those before. I got a notice that my package was processed through the postal facility in Kyiv, and I'm looking, going, why do I have it popped up on my screen? Why do I have a package coming from Kyiv? But I ordered more things for the auction. That's very fun. I was like, oh, I've got something coming from Kyiv. That was very fun. For a second, I was like, that's kind of odd. Sorry, that was a quick gift I got there. Patricia, Coleman, Tomcat. Okay, I knew somebody sent a big gift. I wanted to make sure it was Tom. Thank you, Tom. In any case, what more we got? I'm happy to do some more questions here. I don't know. Is it illegal for a reporter to be recording during a war? I mean, potentially, yeah. It is martial law. You know, if they've arrested people, they can certainly arrest reporters. Now, depending on the reporter, well, for example, they arrested that lunatic left-wing nut job, Chilean American, whatever. Not actually crazy. I use lunatic figuratively when referring to this guy. RFK Jr. is like nutsy, but I forget his name. But that guy, they arrested him because he's a Russian sympathizer and more problems than that. But you know, under martial law, they arrested 4 or 5 bloggers for taking pictures of I believe it was the Patriot missile batteries shooting down Russian missiles and putting them online. You know, thank you, love and support neighbors. So, you know, if a reporter does it, yes, they're not necessarily protected under the law. But if they're a reporter with the New York Times, they probably won't get arrested. They might get kicked out of the country though, but they might not get arrested, right? Whereas if you're a reporter with the Kyiv Independent, you might get arrested if you were to do something in violation of the rules. In other words, if you're a local reporter, you could get into trouble, you know? Sorry, Sarah, and then Marion. I see you got something. Thank you. Sarah Bradshaw. I heard that Russia might get worse off due to the flood than Ukraine long-term and should have blown the dam if they did later in the offensive. Yeah, so the thinking is, I think this is probably what you're talking about. Russia now controls all of this, okay? The dam, which was here, there was a whole canal network of the dam providing, I don't know if it's pipes and stuff too, but basically the dam providing water to a lot of this area. I don't know how far over it goes, but a lot of this area. And if you look at the maps with the satellite imagery, you actually can see, I was seeing a map the other day of this, or photos, you actually can see the canals because it's green. You see these lines of green going through this whole area, and it's where the water is. It's like the Nile kind of thing, right? Well, the canal was also taking the water down to Crimea. Now, Crimea has survived before without water. When the Russians stole it in 2014, the Ukrainians cut the water off to it. Well, the problem now is, right now, this dam and this flood is mostly in Russian-held territory. Russia claims that all of this is now Russia. They literally, I mean, they're wrong. It's not. But Russia says that they said all of this is Russia. Well, Russia has now created a disaster in their own territory, a disaster that's not clear when it's going to go away because there's going to be flooding here forever. They've made it problematic for the nuclear plant long term. The nuclear plant is under Russian control in territory Russia considers its own. So like if Russia were to win the war right now, so to speak, they would be inheriting their own disaster that they created. So the water isn't coming here. The water is also causing problems with the farms. They're saying as far as for the future, it's going to cause a lot of problems with a lot of farms. There's going to be drought and they're going to have problems with the farmland. So my guess is that's the long-term problems they're saying with blowing the dam is twofold. If Russia keeps all the territory, but even if they just keep Crimea, because this was water that was benefiting Crimea, having said that, the Russians had Crimea cut off for 6-7 years, 8 years. Crimea was cut off from southern Ukraine. I don't know how long, but it was years, and they survived. Right. So I don't know that it's not a deal breaker. Also, because Putin doesn't care. Right. Putin wants the land so he can brag and say, look, I've now made Magna Russia. You know what I mean? Greater Russia, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, good question. Thank you, Sarah. And then Marianne. my future travel mate to Uzbekistan. I don't care if you've been there repeatedly. What's up with Denmark? They seemed extraordinarily supportive of Ukraine. I have no idea. What's up with Denmark? That's rather vague, Marion. Marion's a good friend of mine, so I can ask her these things. What the hell are you talking about, Marion? They seem extraordinarily supportive of Ukraine. Are you something happened and you're asking why Denmark is so good? I don't know. Anybody, something going on with Denmark? Well, we do know. I mean, a week ago there was a story that Denmark was pledging $2.5 billion with a B dollars of aid, and that I think it was equal to the size of over the next 2 years for Ukraine, and it was like equal to the size of Denmark's defense budget or something. So that makes sense in terms of what you're saying. I don't know. I don't. That's a very that's kind of an obvious question. I didn't think about, which is why would Denmark of all places, put up so much money compared to its size? Does anybody know? I mean, why Denmark's being that supportive? We'll see if any of you sort of chime in here. There's something fishy in Denmark. Cute, John. And also wondered what the outcome was of their meeting with Biden last week or so. The Danes met with Biden? I have no idea. I don't remember. I'm not remembering this at all. The Danes met with Biden. Rishi Sunak was just right here, but I don't remember the Danes meeting with him at all. Okay. See, this is what Marion did in graduate school. She would ask the teacher questions and make sure they were questions our teachers didn't know about. But they were always very good questions, which was good. They were valid questions, but nonetheless, they were questions that we don't know what the hell she's talking. I have no idea. But it is a good question on Denmark, though. Why are they so good on this? Because they put up a ton of money. We in Denmark have tons of money. Hi, Christian. Nice to meet you. No, but it's interesting, though, because it was literally like $2.5 billion. And they said it was the size of the Danish defense budget that they pledged for the next 2 years, which is a huge commitment. And the question is, why? Like, what is there? What did something touch in the Danish soul? Like, what is it? I'm with you, Fotofeya. I agree. I only know how to say that in Greek. I don't know how to say it in Ukrainian or Russian. I agree. I was going to say symfono, which is Greek. That's as close as I get to your language. I doubt it's the same. But yeah, no, great of Denmark. But sorry, Marion. Thanks for the contribution. No idea. I always feel bad when people ask questions I don't know the answer to and they pay for it, but not so much you. Thank you, though. Thank you, Susan. I know I do have to remember to tighten the map. What else? Denmark has always had a great economy. That's why never part of the EU. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Oh, I forgot that. That's right. They're not part of the EU. Sweden is. Norway isn't part of the EU either, though, right? I thought I saw on a map that they were not part of the EU. Am I right? What will happen with Wagner? Norway isn't, Denmark is. Oh, interesting. Actually, you're right, because Denmark's part of Schengen. I was going to say, I remember that. Yes. That I remember that now, because when I was leaving, because I flew from Greece. I flew from Greece to Sweden for some work I was doing, and I went via Denmark, Danish airport, really cool airport. Love the airport. Bought some cool, beautiful, like ceramic, like the traditional, the blue ceramics that show like the buildings along the canal. Very, very pretty. And when I was going through, the Danish customs guy, or in the Danish immigration, because I was leaving Schengen, there was Danish immigration, and he was kind of bitchy with me because I'd stayed in Greece for 59 days, or I was in Europe for 59 days because I was in France for a month and then in Greece for several weeks. And he was kind of being weird with me. He was like, something like, you can only be here for 60 days. And I said, yeah, I've been here for 59. And it's like, and it was a weird discussion, but anyway, that's how I remember that Denmark is part of Schengen. Yep. The sort of visa-free area. So it was funny though. You can only be here 60 days. In my most polite American way, I basically said, no shit, Sherlock. But I was like, you got to be nice. I said, yes, sir. I said, unless I counted wrong, it's been 59. So there you go. Very funny. Anyway, All right, guys, maybe another question or two, and then we'll go. 7:22 already. Jesus. Oh, you know what? Let's go because I want to go. I did want to go to the Discord for a little bit because we're going to talk Trump for a little. So I want to get rolling since it's already 7:22, and I've got the weekend shows. So let me do the quick recap of I've been trying to get the Greek passport. The Greeks are a pain in the ass. I am owed the Greek passport because my mother was born there and all my relatives were born there. And my uncle was the Greek foreign minister and defense minister and UN ambassador and everything else. And it's been a royal pain in the ass getting the passport. And I mean, by law, I'm owed the Greek passport. And it has been nothing but BS trying to get it. Very upsetting. Very upsetting. It's been impossible to get. Absolutely impossible. You know, there's one document they need, and it's the city registration from literally 90 years ago. And the embassy even told me, they said, well, we probably threw those city registrations. The one honest person at the embassy, she goes, you know, we probably threw those documents out in the 1940s because we were computerizing everything. And instead of actually computerizing, a lot of the people just threw stuff out. I'm going, that's good. So I don't have the document from 1930s that shows that my mother was registered with the city. I've got her birth certificate. I've got her passport. I mean, I've got everything. I don't have the city registration, so I can't get it. And I was like, you've got, and literally I've had people tell me like, well, maybe your mother wasn't really born there. I'm like, maybe my mother wasn't really born there. like my mother lived there till she was 8. I think I know where my mother was born. Thank you very much. I think my mother, who's alive, knows where my mother was born. Anyway, it's in Greek we say fasaria. I mean, it's just been BS. I'm using the American, the short term BS. It has been. My uncle's gone now. I forgot. I should have pulled rank and used my uncle 20 years ago. He died like 10 years ago, and at the time, I thought it was going to be easy because I've got all the documents, and it's one stupid document I don't have, and it's just a disaster trying to get it. No, we're trying to find a lawyer. I'm trying to find like a Greek lawyer I can trust who maybe can help. It's just, it bums me out though because I want the passport. Just as a matter of pride, I want the passport. Thank you, Hedge. But also, it'd be nice to be able to retire and go spend more time in Europe and everything, you know? But it is a matter of pride. I mean, Americans are very proud of their ethnic background. You know, we consider ourselves, we do, like Greek American. I consider myself Greek in many ways, even though I'm clearly American. But we take pride. I consider the sort of the European pride thing, it's very strong in us, those of us, you know. I don't want to say European Americans because that's a phrase that's used by like the Nazis in America. They call themselves European Americans, and it means white people, but you know, proud white people. And it's just like, ugh. So I don't use that phrase, but those of us of European heritage is the way people who aren't racists would call it. In any case, all right, let me do a quick summary of the news, guys, and then we'll go over to Discord and hang out for a little bit. And then remember, tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time, US, that's New York City time, I will do my special hangout on TikTok and on Discord for all the paid subscribers on TikTok, paid subscribers on Discord, the Ko-fi subscribers, ko-fi.com/Aravosis. You guys can find it there. Oh, that's interesting, Marion. Actually, I may be doing another trip. We'll talk. You guys can find the link to ko-fi.com, ko-fi in my profile on TikTok. Click it and it'll take you there. But let me do the news really quick. So actually, today's day 470 of Vladimir Putin's 3-day special military operation, I believe. Moscow and Kyiv have both reported heavy fighting today. 3 focal points of interest for Ukraine in terms of the counteroffensive. One is the town of Orikhiv, which, well, there's 3 towns. I'm just going to show you on the map. One is Bakhmut over here. One is Orikhiv, which is like over here, Orikhiv. And the other is Velika Novosilka, which is, oh, no, I mixed it up. I did mix it up. Ooh, evil of me. No, yeah, Orikhiv is down here. Yeah, Orikhiv is down here. And Velika Novosilka is near Vuhledar, which is right over here, more or less. Yes, I did get that right. So here, and here are where the fighting seems to be happening the most with the Ukrainians, where they've chosen to fight. More reported Ukrainian drone attacks in Belgrade, Russia, and in Voronezh, Russia. Speaking of Belgrade, the sort of Russian freedom fighters say they want to create a demilitarized zone along the Ukrainian border to protect Ukraine if they can pull it off. Earlier this week, Russia claimed it destroyed 8 Leopard 2 Ukrainian tanks. The Associated Press did a review of the Russian video and found out that, in fact, the Russians destroyed 2 farm combines and a farm tractor. A senior Biden administration official says the U.S. spy satellites detected an explosion at the Kakhovka Dam just before it collapsed, suggesting an explosion. An intercepted phone call published by Ukraine Security Service shows an alleged Russian serviceman saying that a Russian sabotage group destroyed the Kakhovka Dam. The floodwaters have begun to recede. The White House says Iran is providing Moscow with materials to build a drone factory in Russia. And finally, good economic news for Ukraine. The gross domestic grew in other words, the economy grew 2.4% in the first quarter of 2023. And finally, we are doing a fundraiser our other fundraiser did so well. We're able to buy two what do you call them, dinghies or whatever, inflatable boats, and 1 outboard motor. From your guys' contributions for the search and rescue. And now we are trying to raise $1,100 to save the animals that are drowning in Kherson, the pets. There are a lot of pets that are still there, and they are trapped in homes. I showed a video earlier. There's like cats in attics. I mean, it's very scary. And there are a number of animal welfare groups from around Ukraine that are there. My friend Vlad in Ukraine, who's my contact in all of this, is in contact with a number of the ones from Kharkiv, one's from Mykolaiv, and we're raising money for the groups to help them with their animal rescue. They particularly need food, medicine, and tranquilizers. Makes sense. Thank you, Dawn, for that. So if you can help out and you want to, 100% of your donation will go to the animal rescues. It's not even going to me. We're sending it via my friend Vlad in Ukraine. He's not taking a dime either. Vlad has a real job. He volunteers and does this, but you can find Vlad's PayPal information to donate in my profile on TikTok. Click the link. The first thing that comes up is Vlad's PayPal info. Go to your PayPal and just copy down Vlad's info. For you guys, just go to erevosis.com if you want. Yeah, for the map tightening. Thank you. And I'll actually pull up Vlad's info one last time. There you go. That way, when people record it later, they can see that's Vlad's info if you want to just copy it right there. So thank you, guys. I'm going to sign off. We'll go over to the Discord and we will talk Trump. All right. The Trump, make sure I didn't miss anything here. I did not. The Trump indictments. We'll talk about that for a little bit. And then I'm going to go have dinner and chill out and and prepare for tomorrow's show. So see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern as well. I'm doing my update, like I said, for the paid subscribers. And at 1 p.m. Eastern, 1 in the afternoon, New York time, I will be doing my weekend review on Twitch, where it's free, but it's only on Twitch, and it will be on my Erevosis account on Twitch. So join us there as well. All right, guys, thank you so much. Thanks for the gifts. Thanks for batting the trolls around, and thanks for showing up, everybody. All right, see you over at Discord, discord.erevosis.com, top left corner, John's after party. That's where we'll be hanging. All right, see you guys.